Nostradamus reveals the mystery of Taurus and its connection to dark magic. Taurus, have you ever sensed a quiet force within you? Steady, unwavering, and ancient? A presence that doesn't shout, but whispers through your instincts, your body, and the stillness you create around you. Perhaps you've always known that you were different, not in a loud or rebellious way, but in your depth, your ability to hold pain without crumbling, and your strange connection to things others can't see. If that resonates, you are in the right place. Welcome to Zodiac Wisdom. I'm Sophia, psychologist, astrologer, and your guide in this sacred space made for souls like yours. Here, we explore the deeper meanings of astrology beyond the daily forecasts. We dive into the hidden energies that shape our lives, our decisions, and our healing. This video is not just another Taurus reading. It's an awakening. Because Taurus, you are more than stability and material success. You are a guardian of ancient energies, and Nostradamus saw something in your sign that few talk about. A mysterious connection to dark magic, karmic power, and spiritual protection. So if you've been feeling unusually heavy lately, if dreams, symbols, or old fears have been resurfacing, or if your body has been carrying tension you can't explain, stay with me. What you're about to hear may reveal why your soul feels like it's standing at a crossroads between light and shadow. If this message finds you at the right time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your presence here is no accident. This is the beginning of a sacred unraveling. And you are ready. Gate 1. Taurus, the spiritual anchor between earth and shadow. Taurus, you are often seen as the rock, stable, reliable, grounded. But what many don't realize is that beneath your calm exterior lies a deep reservoir of spiritual strength, inherited wisdom, and an ancient connection to energies that stretch far beyond this lifetime. You are ruled by Venus, the planet of beauty, love, and value. And while the world may see you as someone who thrives in the physical realm, home, food, relationships, financial stability, the truth is that your connection to these things is far more spiritual than material. You don't just enjoy beauty, Taurus, you remember it. Somewhere in your soul you carry the memory of a time when beauty was sacred, when touch was healing, and when silence spoke louder than words. Nostradamus believed that Taurus carried the key to an ancient form of energy, earth magic. Not the kind found in spells or rituals, but in the living, breathing energy of the body, the land, and the soul. You are the bridge between the sacred and the mundane, between the light of the physical world and the shadows that lie hidden beneath its surface. Have you ever noticed how animals seem to trust you instantly? How people open up to you without knowing why? Or how your presence alone can change the energy of a room? These are not accidents, Taurus. They are signs of your anchoring energy, your ability to absorb, stabilize, and even transmute the spiritual chaos around you. But this gift is not without weight. Because you are so deeply rooted, you often become the container for others' emotions. You are the one people lean on, the one who never breaks, the one who has it all together. And while this role gives you a sense of purpose, it can also drain you. Silently, slowly, and invisibly. You hold space for everyone. But who holds space for you? I once worked with a woman named Camille, a Taurus in her late 40s, who ran a small organic farm in Oregon. To her friends, she was strong and serene. But in our sessions, she revealed how overwhelmed she had become. Her body ached constantly. She had vivid dreams about natural disasters and strange animals. And she felt as though she was carrying something that didn't belong to her. What we discovered was powerful. Camille had unknowingly become the energetic vessel for her entire community. People came to her not just for food or advice, but to feel grounded, healed, and safe. And without realizing it, she was absorbing their fear, anxiety, and unprocessed pain. Her land, her animals, even her home began mirroring this energetic heaviness. This, Taurus, is your unseen burden. You are the anchor. But if you never release what you've anchored, you begin to sink into it. The physical pain, the fatigue, the emotional flatness, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that your spiritual system is overloaded. So how do you protect your energy while still offering your light to the world? It begins with conscious grounding. Most people think grounding means being still, but for Taurus, true grounding is release. It's walking barefoot on the earth and letting the earth take your burdens. It's soaking in warm water not just to relax, but to let the energy of others dissolve. It's saying no without guilt. It's stepping away from people who are constantly in chaos and giving yourself permission to not be the healer for a while. Protecting your energy also means reclaiming your body as sacred. Taurus, your body is not just a vessel. It is an oracle. When your back tightens, your shoulders ache, or your digestion falters, it is speaking. Are you listening? So many Tauruses push through physical discomfort in the name of duty. But what if that discomfort is your spirit's way of telling you that a boundary has been crossed? You must learn to listen inward more than you look outward. And finally, there is your relationship to shadow. Because you are so attuned to the physical world, you are also highly sensitive to the spiritual world. Some of your fears, especially those that seem irrational, may actually be ancestral. Taurus carries deep karmic memory. You may fear abandonment, financial instability, or loss of control, even if these things have never happened in your life. Why? Because your soul remembers. This is why Taurus energy is so powerful when healed. Because it grounds not only your life, but also your lineage. So ask yourself, where am I holding energy that isn't mine? What burdens am I carrying in silence? How can I release what no longer belongs to me? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Taurus, your journey is not about becoming stronger. You already are. Your journey is about becoming lighter. Learning that strength also means knowing when to let go, when to soften, when to rest. Because when you do that, your true magic awakens. You don't need to chase power, Taurus. You are power. But it's time to stop being the silent container for the pain of the world and start becoming the sacred vessel for your own transformation. Let this be the moment you reclaim your energy and remember who you truly are. Gate 2. The shadow of silence, unspoken grief, and spiritual memory. Taurus, there is a kind of sadness that lives beneath the surface of your strength. One that you rarely speak of even to those closest to you. It's not the sharp grief that erupts in tears or chaos. It's a slower, quieter ache. The kind that settles in the bones, that lives in the muscles of your back, or hides in the heaviness you sometimes carry in your chest for no clear reason. It's the kind of sadness that doesn't ask to be noticed, only endured. Many Tauruses learn early on that being calm and composed is what keeps others safe. So you swallow your feelings. You smile through discomfort. You keep moving forward, believing that stability is more important than vulnerability. But the truth is, in doing so, you've carried more than your share of pain. Not just your own, but inherited pain, generational grief, and the weight of silent expectations passed down like a burden nobody dared to name. I remember working with a man named Ellis, a Taurus in his 50s, who had spent most of his life running a small construction company. He was respected, dependable, the kind of person everyone trusted. But behind that stoic exterior was a man who had never fully grieved the loss of his mother, who passed when he was only 12. At the time, his father simply said, "We move on." And so Ellis did. He moved on, became the man of the house, took care of his younger siblings, and never spoke of that loss again. Decades later, during a conversation with me, his voice broke when he described a dream he'd been having repeatedly. In it, he was standing in a field under a darkening sky, holding a small lantern, and watching as a woman disappeared into the mist. He didn't know why the dream haunted him, but he always woke up with a pain in his chest and tears in his eyes. As we explored the symbolism, it became clear that the woman was his mother, and the mist was not just about her absence. It was the fog of unspoken grief he had carried for over 40 years. His lantern, flickering in the dark, was his soul still trying to find closure. He wasn't broken. He was simply full of love that had nowhere to go, full of sorrow that had never been named, and full of questions that had remained unanswered for a lifetime. Taurus, this is the kind of emotional memory you often carry. And it doesn't always come from loss through death. Sometimes it comes from the quiet wounds of being overlooked, from loving someone who couldn't love you back, from being the strong one in a family where no one asked if you were okay. Sometimes it's the grief of putting your dreams on hold for the sake of someone else's comfort. Sometimes it's the ache of all the almosts you never gave yourself permission to mourn. What makes this even more complex is your connection to ancestral memory. Many Tauruses are born into family lines where emotions were never fully expressed, where survival came before self-reflection. You may feel grief that doesn't even seem to belong to your own life. A longing of fear, a heaviness that can't be traced to a single moment. That is the echo of generational pain moving through you, waiting to be acknowledged and transformed. And this is where your gift lies. Unlike other signs that externalize their pain, you internalize it, hold it, even mold it into something productive. You keep going. You provide. You show up. But inside, your spirit is often calling for release. For a space where your own emotions are allowed to exist without judgment or shame. Takes courage to stop. To sit with the ache you've tried to ignore. To let the tears rise, even if they make no sense. To say, "This hurts," without needing a logical reason. But this is the healing Taurus needs most. Not a dramatic breakthrough, but the slow unfreezing of the heart. The gentle permission to feel what has always been there. This isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. Nostradamus wrote of Taurus as a sign holding the silence of the soil. The power to store and protect what others cannot hold. You are the sacred earth where unspoken stories are buried. And just like the earth, when those stories remain buried too long, they begin to shift and move beneath the surface. They cause emotional tremors, anxiety without a name, chronic fatigue, physical discomfort that doctors cannot explain. The body remembers what the mind has learned to forget, but it doesn't have to remain that way. The first step is allowing yourself to be seen. Not by the world, but by your own heart. Ask yourself not what you've lost, but what you've never let yourself mourn. Let the tears come, not as weakness but as wisdom. As water softening the soil so that something new can grow. Grief when honored becomes medicine. Silence when voiced becomes song. In Ellis's case, he began writing letters to his mother. At first, they were stilted and formal. But over time they grew into poems, raw, imperfect, but true. He never intended to share them with anyone. He didn't need to. He simply needed to open the vault he had sealed inside himself for so long. The nightmares faded. His back pain, long unexplained by any scan or test, began to ease. And for the first time in decades, he felt lightness return to his breath. Taurus, your healing will not look like anyone else's. It won't be loud or fast or performative. It will be quiet, private, deeply embodied. But it will be real. And once you allow that space within you to soften, you will become something even more powerful than a protector. You will become a witness to your own truth, your own loss, and your own strength. You do not need to be anyone's foundation until you learn to stand gently with your own sorrow. Because that sorrow is sacred. And once it's honored, it becomes the source of your deepest resilience. Your softness is not a liability. It is your portal to the divine. This Taurus is the shadow you carry not because you are broken, but because you were trusted by the universe to hold something important. But you don't have to hold it alone anymore. Gate 3 Love beyond the body-soul ties and the sacred heart of Taurus. Taurus, for all your strength and stillness, your deepest yearning has never been for success or stability. It has always been for love. Not just romantic love in the way stories portray it, but the kind of love that roots itself in your soul. A love that doesn't ask to be explained, only recognized. A connection that moves through lifetimes, where a single glance feels like remembering, and silence shared with the right person feels more intimate than words. You may not always say it aloud, but your heart aches for that kind of connection. And when you love, you don't do so lightly. You love with your whole being, with loyalty, consistency, and a depth that is both grounding and eternal. But with that depth also comes a quiet suffering. Because when a bond breaks, when someone leaves, when a relationship ends before your soul is ready to let go, it doesn't just hurt. It lingers. It imprints itself on your spirit in ways you cannot simply walk away from. I once worked with a Taurus woman named Lena, a piano teacher in her early 60s, who had never married. She'd had a great love once, decades ago, when she was in her 20s. A man she described not as perfect, but as the place my soul felt safe. They'd met in a summer music conservatory in the countryside. He played violin. She played Chopin. They were young, reckless, radiant. But circumstances, distance, obligations, timing pulled them apart. And though years passed, lovers came and went, her heart had quietly stayed with him. She had not spoken his name in over 30 years, and yet when she did, her voice trembled like a melody remembered after too long. What struck me most was not her sadness, but the reverence in her sorrow. She didn't speak of regret. She spoke of connection. She hadn't been waiting for him. She had simply never found another space where her heart felt that known. This Taurus is your sacred dilemma. Your ability to form soul ties is not romantic fantasy. It is spiritual reality. You don't love with the surface of your being. You love with memory, with devotion, with a kind of stillness that allows something divine to take root. And because of that, you also carry remnants of loves long gone, sometimes not even from this lifetime. That's why you may sometimes feel haunted by a connection you can't explain, or dream of someone whose face you don't know but whose presence feels familiar. That's why you might still feel the weight of a breakup years after it happened, or find yourself unable to sever a bond that everyone else told you to forget. It's not weakness. It's recognition. You're not just missing a person. You're remembering a soul. But Taurus, here is what you must know. Not all soul ties are meant to last forever. Some arrive to awaken a part of you. Some return to complete a karmic loop. Some come to mirror the love you have forgotten to offer yourself. And some, like Lena's, are meant to exist only as echoes. Sweet reminders that you are capable of a love so profound it doesn't need presence to feel real. The danger lies in confusing depth with destiny. You may stay too long in something that no longer grows, simply because you once saw beauty in it. You may refuse to let go of a connection that has already taught you everything it came to teach. Or worse, you may close your heart altogether, believing that the one great love of your life has already come and gone, and that nothing new could possibly measure up. But love, Taurus, is not a finite resource. And your heart is not a tomb for what was. It is a sacred vessel for what can still be. The healing begins when you realize that soul ties are not about ownership or permanence. They are about resonance. And just as the earth lets go of one season to welcome another, you too are allowed to release love that no longer aligns with your growth. You do not betray the past by opening to the future. In fact, you honor it by allowing it to become what it was always meant to be, a chapter, not the whole book. For Lena, that realization didn't come in some dramatic moment. It came one morning while she played a melody she hadn't touched in years, a gentle, unfinished piece she had started during that long-ago summer. And for the first time, instead of stopping where the music ended, she finished it. She didn't write a masterpiece. She simply wrote an ending. And when she did, she wept. Not because she was sad, but because something in her had finally made peace. Taurus, you may never forget the ones who moved you to your core. But you are allowed to love again. And not just others. You are allowed to love yourself with the same reverence, the same devotion, the same tenderness. Because your sacred heart, for all it has held, deserves to receive what it so freely gives. Your soul doesn't need someone to complete it. It needs space to expand. And when you offer yourself that space, when you release the soul ties that hold you in the past, you make room for something even more aligned. Love that meets you where you are now, love that doesn't demand you carry its weight, love that feels like home, but also like freedom. So ask yourself not who have I lost, but what within me is ready to be loved now. Because that question is the beginning of a new chapter. Not in your romantic life, but in your spiritual life. You are not here to be the keeper of unfinished stories. You are here to become the author of a love that includes you first. Conclusion: embrace your sacred light, Taurus. Taurus, if you've made it to this point, take a deep breath with me, slow, grounding, full of reverence. Because what you've just done isn't simple reflection. It's a return. A quiet yet powerful return to yourself. You've walked through the shadow of silence, the tenderness of ancient memory, and the unspoken ache of love that lives beyond time. You've touched the weight of what it means to be an anchor, a guardian, a soul trusted by the universe to carry things others cannot. And maybe for the first time, you've also seen that strength does not mean holding it all forever. Sometimes the most sacred act of strength is letting go. Letting go of burdens that were never truly yours. Letting go of grief that asked to be felt, not buried. Letting go of soul ties that shaped you, but no longer serve the version of you that is emerging now. You are not just a child of Venus. You are her expression in the world. Through every touch you give, every truth you finally speak, every boundary you set with grace and firmness. Your sacred heart, when protected, is not just a source of comfort to others. It becomes a sanctuary for yourself. So now I ask you, what part of you is finally ready to come home? If this message touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video if your heart feels a little lighter now. Subscribe to Zodiac Wisdom so we can continue walking this path together. Slowly, gently, truthfully. Because the journey of Taurus isn't about changing who you are. It's about remembering the divine beauty that's been within you all along. And my love, the world is ready for that light. Are you?